Hello again. To supplement your reading on Chapter 17 and the last promotional element known as personal selling, I wanted to go over 6 different sales scenarios with you and see if you can address which step in the personal selling process this scenario goes with. So, to remind you, and of course, this is in your reading, and this was also in the notes that I left for you in the module. The 6 steps are prospecting, which is searching for new clients, pre approach, which is gathering information on those clients and trying to figure out how you're going to approach them. Step 3 is the approach, which is to gain the prospect's attention and maybe try and set up an appointment so that you can move into step 4, which is the presentation. Presentation is just like it sounds. You are presenting a product or a service to the client and you're hoping that they'll purchase. While in that presentation, you may ask for the purchase. That is the close. You want to try and close the deal before you leave. Afterwards, whether you closed the deal or not, you are going to want to follow up with that client. A thank you note's probably a good idea, making sure that they're satisfied, some way of just following up and touching base with that client. During that follow up phase, you'll also notice that step 6 also has what's called referrals in it. This is a good opportunity, especially with a satisfied client, to ask for any referrals. Do they know anybody who might want the same product that they just purchased? Okay, so now that we've given the rundown of those 6 steps, let me give you 6 different situations or scenarios that may happen actually in the real world. Let me introduce you to Mike. Mike is a salesperson for a paper company, not unlike Dunder Mifflin if you are an Office fan. But Mike is a very positive guy, and he wakes up bright and early on a Wednesday morning, and he gets himself a cup of coffee, and he spends about 3 hours online looking for information about a specific company, the Adonis Pool Supply Company. In his research, he's able to find out that Adonis has been in business for 17 years, is owned by Greg Jones, and makes about $20 million a year. Mike then calls a friend, Joe, who's a customer of Adonis Pool Supply, for additional information about the owner, Greg. Joe mentions that the corporate offices are very casual and the owner doesn't really like stuffy people. So, what stage of the personal selling process do you think that this is? Yes, this is the pre approach stage. He had a customer in mind, a target, a prospect, if you will, and he's trying to find out as much information about this prospect as possible before he approaches them. Okay, let's move on to personal selling scenario number 2. It's Thursday afternoon, and Mike meets with a potential new client, Janet, at Picture Frames Inc. Mike tells Janet that if she places her order today, he will throw in a 100 extra reams of paper. What stage is this in the personal selling process? This is a close. Well, technically they're in a presentation, but when he asks for the sale and he offers her a special incentive, that is a classic close. All right, let's move on to number 3. Later that afternoon, Mike gives the okay for his assistant to buy a lead list from salesgenie.com. He makes sure that the list she is ordering is businesses that make over $15 million a year, have at least 10 employees, and are in his sales territory. What stage is this in the personal selling process? Yes, this is prospecting. He's looking for certain customers and he wants them to be a certain size and he wants to make sure that they're in his territory. This means that he will have qualified leads that he can pursue. Number 4. Here we have Mike again, and Mike is getting ready for work on a Friday morning, and he decides to put on shorts and flip-flops and a company polo shirt rather than his 3-piece suit. He takes his laptop with him and he heads to a meeting at the Adonis Pool Supply Company. Once there, Mike meets with Jennifer, the head buyer. Mike starts the conversation asking about her recent trip to Hawaii. Mike then asks about the company's specific paper needs and shows her several samples that might fit her specifications. What stage is this in the personal selling process? Yes, this is the presentation. Why on earth would he be wearing flip-flops and a polo shirt? Well, because he found out in the pre-approach that that company doesn't really like stuffy salespeople. And why on earth would he be asking Jennifer about her trip to Hawaii? Shouldn't he get right down to business? Well, a tool that a good salesperson has is to make the client feel at ease, feel comfortable, get them talking about themselves. Customers buy from salespeople that they like. So keep that in mind if you're ever in a sales situation. All right, number 5. On a Friday afternoon, Mike spends some time writing out personal thank you notes to the businesses that he has presented to this week. In each card, he writes a short personal note related to their conversation, and then he mails them out in snail mail with a stamp. Can you believe it? What stage of the personal selling process is this? Yes, this is a follow-up. And a handwritten note mailed through traditional mail with a stamp is a really great way to make yourself stand out. Why? Because really nobody else does that anymore, and it's a really nice, caring touch. All right, our last scenario, number 6. After looking over a lead list that his assistant bought for him, Mike recognizes a lead buyer's name who had recently been interviewed in a magazine article. Mike decides to call her, congratulate her on the article, and see if he might be able to set up a meeting about her company's paper needs. What stage is this in the personal selling process? Hopefully you got this one right. Hopefully it wasn't through a process of elimination. But yes, this is an approach. He is calling her up to ask her for an appointment. All right, that is our 6 stages that could happen in the real world. Hopefully you got them all right. If not, feel free to read a little bit more in your book. And as always, let me know if you have any questions.